Hello, 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 people. Welcome back to the MUFC MPB YouTube channel. I know I said in my last episode with Ben Jacobs, be sure to join me next week, but it's not next week, it's the next day because the problems at Manchester United seem to be addressed and they're being addressed very quickly. Graeme Bailey, the brilliant Graeme Bailey, is back with me. Graeme, just take us through what the last 24 hours has been like. It's been an absolute whirlwind, hasn't it?
Been a busy week also for United. Yeah, everything's coming good. Obviously, the Lenny Euro stuff. It happened very quickly in terms of not necessarily obviously the deal with Lille was agreed last week, but then in terms of progress with the player happened very quickly. And obviously the thing is, what they already had a deal with the club. So once the player showed that willingness, obviously naturally it would happen quite quickly. The next step is for him to come over for a medical, which he's done now. So yeah, it's been a fascinating few time for United fans. It's not over yet. Yeah, Euro. Obviously we saw Xerxes. He sort of almost went under the radar, didn't it? Him
Yeah.
being done and they moved out of that. And obviously, we'll talk about the LIGT, Brantwaite, UGARTE, and others as well, because yeah, once Euro's done, United are not finished there.
Yeah, perfect. Graham, what an intro that is. I should have let you do the job there because that was much better than what I could come up with. But in terms of the Lenny Yoro stuff, let's discuss it a little bit more in terms of the way this has gone about. I just wanted to get your opinion because I think the general consensus amongst Manchester United fans and journalists was, of course, Euro is highly admired by Manchester United and several big clubs across Europe, but it almost felt a bit like Manchester United were taking a free hit, wasn't it? It was put the money in, put the bid down. It seems unlikely because Real Madrid appearingly will be the number one nailed on club or destination for Euro. But then things did take a turn very quickly. So just take us through the backdrop, take us through how you found out the information and what can you tell us a little bit more about this whole process and how did it actually turn around so quickly?
Yeah, obviously, it surprised many of us in England, especially with regards to Euro's stance with Real Madrid, because that's what precipitated PSG and Liverpool backing it away, and because they thought he was heading to Real Madrid. It's my understanding that Ineos, through their French contacts and their standing within French football, which is very strong from the time they thought there was a chance here, and they really pushed the football department at Old Trafford to make a bid, and that really put the ball into Real's court and the players' side of the court as well to really respond to this. It stopped Real getting a real run at the player, and it really tested Euro's resolve, and it's come to pass. But I would big up Ineos here because I think they played a major part in this. But working with the football department, not stamping the feet and saying we need to do this. But I think in terms of the way they were talking and negotiating with the football department in England, I think the football department in England respected that Ineos had that knowledge in France, and their sources were saying, look, there's a chance here, and they put the bid in, and they've gone from there. So I think it's a major plus point, a major tick in Ineos's box. But obviously, from a fan's point of view, you can see how Ineos and the football department are working together. And hey, Brailsford and Jean-Claude Blanc are at the very top of United's football department, being that they're on the board. So there is that synergy as well. But it's nice for United fans to see that working so well quite quickly.
Yeah, for sure. It's quite scary, really, Graham. I don't really want to get my hopes up too high because I've been here before as a Manchester United fan, but it seems to be going in the right direction. I just want to talk to you about Matthias de Ligt. Now, of course, the reports suggest I think it's quite a known thing in regards to de Ligt that he is very open, shall we say, to moving to Manchester United. But what can you tell us about this? Is this deal still on? Is he happy to wait? Is he understanding, if you like, of the Euro deal being prioritized before his own? What can you tell us about De Ligt? As I say, is the deal still on?
Yeah, understanding is that United would still like to do that. They want at least two centre halves in this summer. The expectation is that Lindelof leaves this summer. Harry Maguire is still available if someone wants him. Unlikely, but he's available. So United do want at least two centre backs in. And De Ligt is someone who they like. They've held talks. The player wants to come. He's had a lot of talks with Eric Ten Hag about the prospect. And I wouldn't say necessarily Euro was the priority. It's just as these deals have gone on, we've seen the bids for Brantwaite and the Ligt talks as well. The talks with Bayern Munich have stalled a little bit because Bayern are wanting 50 million euros. United won't go above 40 million euros. The main issue there is because he's on a healthy contract as well. My understanding is that he might take a reduction in his wage, but even then, he would still be one of the highest paid players at the club. And that's the issue here, where Lenny Yoro coming in won't be one of the highest paid players at United. He'll be
Mm.
rewarded very handsomely, as we imagine. But De Ligt is on a lot of money at Bayern, so that's the issue here. And United also know that Bayern want De Ligt out. You know, they're keeping Kim, they're bringing Jonathan Tah in, so there isn't really room for De Ligt there. So United, I think United are standing their ground. I still think De Ligt will get done. I do. I think as long as Bayern drop their asking price, which I think, I think 40 million euros, it's a bit of a hit for them. But I think, given the players' wages, they need to get him off the wage bill. United are willing to take most of that. But obviously Bayern then need to come back with a reduced fee. From my understanding is, United still want him. It's still ongoing. Obviously, Euro's getting done now, but I think United ideally would like to have De Ligt and Euro next to Martinez, which compared to what they had last season and the previous seasons is a massive step up for United.
Yeah, let's hope that we don't see the likes of Casemiro playing at the back again because that was quite a worrying time for United. But I think in terms of the pursuit of another defender, as you've just said there, that United are desperate to get another one in through the door, especially with the likes of Lindelof being heavily linked with a move away, which I'm sure we'll get onto a little bit shortly. I think it's imperative that Manchester United sign another defender because if the club go into the new season with Martinez and Yoro as their centre half partnership, that is unbelievable. It's strong, it's got huge potential, and it's got a bit of everything. But if then injury again happens to Martinez, which is quite likely given his track record at Manchester United, then United find themselves in a position where they're relying heavily on an 18-year-old. Despite his ability, despite his potential, it's a huge weight on anyone's shoulders. And we've seen the likes of even more experienced players than Yoro, the likes of Di Maria, and all of these types of players come into Manchester United, and for one reason or another, that hasn't quite worked out. And I think the spotlight is a massive factor in this. So I do think it's huge that Manchester United do sign someone in that position as well as Euro. Another position that Manchester United I think do need some reinforcements in is midfield. And UGARTE is one that we've even spoke about before, I think, Graham. And this is probably the only one that has had some links recently in terms of that specific position. What can you tell us? Because there have been some reports coming out of PSG's camp that Man United have put some verbal bids in, but is it true that Manchester United will be preparing a formal bid for the player to get him into through the doors at Old Trafford?
Yeah, talks are ongoing. My understanding, I think I'll be doing a piece later today, later Thursday on this. I'm going to start progressing with this. The interest is there. Talks are ongoing. PSG themselves are looking at other aspects of their squad in this position. João Neves, a player who everyone in England knows quite well now, given all the links that have been going on for the last 18 months with him. Looks like João Neves wants to go to PSG, which opens the door for UGARTE to leave. UGARTE, who I think is, as I said to you before, I think it's a tremendous player. I think it's one who United recognise would be able to slot straight into that midfield. Obviously, United do want to get rid of Casemiro at the same time. Talks are ongoing with the Saudi Pro League for him as well. So a lot going on in United's midfield. I think it could not happen quicker, but I think you could see Casemiro, Gatti, but ships that pass in the night, so to speak. I think could happen sooner rather than later. But obviously, getting someone on Casemiro's wages out of the club
Hmm.
is not easy. But obviously, with the Pro League being the interested party, makes it that bit more comfortable to do a deal with them. But with Gatti, yeah, that interest is still there. They're progressing with it. Um, do I think I think United would like Casemiro a bit closer to the exit door before firming up that Ugarte, but I think United want Ugarte in. Ideally, they'd like him in before that tour starts, which is what is that 10 days away, something like that?
Yeah, yeah,
Is it? I
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, it's around the corner, isn't it? And you're so right. It's one thing getting all these players in, but it's even more important, isn't it, that they're in through the door at pre-season to give them enough time to really get their head round what Eric Ten Hag wants, whatever that may be. In regards, I know you touched on it a little bit before, but we'll go into it a bit more now in terms of Jared Branthwaite. As you've just already stated, I think it's an understanding that Manchester United do want another centre back, but because of the price tag. I think Samuel Luckhurst reported yesterday that Everton are not too happy with the pursuit of Lenny Yoro, which is quite funny, isn't it? Considering that a club can be upset that you didn't buy one of their best players off them. That's the world that we live in at the moment, isn't it? But in terms of Branthwaite and his price tag, it's not going to be a cheap deal to get over the line. Everton have already shown they're going to drive a hard bargain. The PSR deadline didn't really seem to phase them in terms of getting Branthwaite off the books and raising a lot of needed cash, so we say, for their situation. So, what do you think about the Branthwaite? Of course, the interest is there. He's admired highly from not just Ineos, but a lot of members at Manchester United, including Eric Ten Hag. But could this deal still happen? Do you think it's quite likely, or given the price, do you think it's just one that, despite unless a miracle, should I say, would happen, this is not going to happen for now anyway?
I think I said previously, and I never thought this deal would happen. To be honest,
Mm.
Everton stands. I know it was reported that you know Everton selling Onana had changed things. From my Everton source, it didn't change anything at all. Everton have always wanted 75 to 80 million for the player. They classed him in the same bracket as a Vardiol, Fofana, even Harry Maguire, and what United paid
Mm.
Leicester for him. And I think they're well within the rights to see him in that price range. He's always been in that price range. It hasn't changed. There was never any indication from Goodison Park that they would accept anything less than that figure. Yeah, United chanced their arm. I think that United maybe were misled by intermediaries at some point that they might be able to get him for 50, 60. From my understanding, that was never the case. From Everton's point of view, they were never going to let a prized asset like him. No, he's just got an England cap. He should have been at the Euros, really,
Yeah,
as we say.
yeah.
He really should have been at the Euros. I think he's going to be a starter for England, going maybe even starting at Nations League and the World
Mm.
Cup qualifiers. Branthwaite will be an England national for the next 5 or 6 years. That is for sure. And so on those terms, I think Everton, as I said, are well within their rights to ask this money. And United are not going to pay that money for any player this summer. I said, well, my understanding, they were never going to pay more than £60 million for any player this summer. That still stands. Obviously, Xerxes less than that, Euro less than that, De Ligt would be less than that if that happens as well. So no, I don't see that happening. I don't see him going anywhere this summer.
Mm.
To be honest, Anil, I think Branthwaite will be one for this time next year for maybe United, but elsewhere as well.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think, as you just said, especially when the Euro stuff was coming out, and in terms of the progression in that department, it became even more unlikely, didn't it, with the Branthwaite? Because I think not only financially would it have took a lot more, I think it would have took a lot of the transfer window negotiating as well, which I don't think Ineos are too keen on doing. They wanted, as you've already said, their players in through the door very quickly, joining the rest of the team on pre-season to get the ideas across and all of that malarkey. So I think it was always the odds were always stacked against Branthwaite, despite the optimism amongst the Manchester United ranks. Graham, I just want to take your attention now to some potential departures at United, and I want to start with Scott McTominay. As you've already said, Manchester United probably want a sale or two before they really start making some big splashes in the midfield department. He has been linked with a move to Fulham. West Ham at one point were very keen. I think that was last year at some point. So could you see a deal happening for Scott McTominay? How likely is that, and where do you think his most likely destination would be?
I don't see him leaving. To be honest, I think I did a piece this week. United have a price tag on his head of 40 million. They're not desperate to lose him. Everton Hag loves him as a squad player. Thinks he offers a lot, which I think like United fans, you can see last season he was crucial at times. He's a real impact player for them at times, and Fulham are going for Andre, the Brazilian midfielder from Fluminense, to replace João Paulinho. They did look at McTominay, but I don't think they were going to go to 40 million. And Calvin Phillips was the one they looked at as well. West Ham, yeah, I think that interest. I think there's a slight interest still there, to be honest. But I think the 40 million price tag will put a lot of teams off. It's my understanding that McTominay could even sign a new deal at United. Going forward, Ten Hag really doesn't want to lose McTominay. I think when we see the departures in this midfield, I think we'll see Ericsson go. This summer, Casemiro, Van der Beek's already gone. I think McTominay will have a part to play in this United squad going forward. I said he's a fantastic figure. And I think what Ten Hag and the United staff like about him, he's a real example. You know, there's
Mm.
plenty of players in this United squad from the academy who could point as not being great examples, but McTominay is not one of them. He's a real example to these young players who, look, you work hard, there's a future for you at Manchester United, and I think he is one of those real examples to the staff love, and they love having him around. I don't think he's going anywhere, and I'll be surprised if McTominay leaves.
Yeah, wow, that's interesting to say the least. One player and an individual being linked with a move to West Ham also is a certain Aaron Wan-Bissaka. And I think there's a couple of sort of facets we need to explore in regards to this. We'll start with his potential departure. Is an agreement close? What have you heard about Aaron Wan-Bissaka's future?
Yeah, I can say his agents are very close to the West Ham ownership, so that makes sense. West Ham were looking at Kyle Walker-Peters. That hasn't happened because of his valuation. Wan-Bissaka is a player who West Ham like. He's a player who Eric Ten Hag likes as well as a squad player, but he's not getting a new deal at United unless he takes a massive wage drop. And so his future always looked like United weren't pushing him out the door this summer. I know they were thinking, he's a great 1-2 combo with Dalot on that side. So a right back wasn't really high up United's thinking. But if Wan-Bissaka does leave, they will require one, and they are looking in that market now because it is advancing. United have made clear. I think 15 to 20 million for him. His wages off a wage bill. I think it ticks some boxes for United. So if West Ham meet their asking price, yeah, it's going to happen. I think there's a real chance this one goes through, and then that means United will be looking for that right back. Although I'm told maybe they look for a full back who can play both sides, a bit
Mhm.
similar to Dalot, because then that would help out with the left back situation as well. So yeah, the right back is an interesting one. It's a market that United were not really anticipating, but it was always a possibility that someone would come in for Wan-Bissaka, and West Ham now have.
Yeah, yeah. In terms of that potential pursuit of a new right back, Graham, it wouldn't come as a surprise if Man United don't exactly put a large chunk of their potential budget over to a right back, because as you said, it wasn't even guaranteed that they'd need to go into the market for a new right back. But in terms of that position, in terms of potential names or even like a profile of player, Man United so far anyway have only been linked really in a concrete way with younger players. So would you say this would be the route again they go down, or have you even potentially heard any names in that department?
Well, we know the previously been linked strongly with Jeremy Frimpong by Leverkusen, but if you brought him in, you're thinking Dallo could spend a lot of the season at left back.
Mm,
And Frimpong, he'd be decent wages, he'd be a decent chunk of money, and he'd want to come and start, wouldn't he, as well?
yeah.
Did they go all in for someone like that? Possibly. We know it's a player they like. I wonder if go for, as you say, for someone a bit younger, on the continent, something like Coyote at Fiorentina, or something like that, maybe. That's just speculation. I'm not saying he's the link to him, but someone like that, maybe someone like that up and coming, like Malacia, obviously the hoping he still comes through at left back through his injuries. So yeah, I think maybe a younger version on that right hand side, as you say. Yeah, we'll have to see. Obviously, in the coming days, I think they'll already have the list. They know who they want. They've got they have these big boards, a bit like the NFL. They have these big boards. They have no positions. They know who they like. They keep it up to date all the time. So yeah, we'll see the right back one progress in the coming week or so as Wan-Bissaka gets close. But obviously, Wan-Bissaka, he's on a big deal at United, so West Ham need to agree terms with him. But as I said, I think his agents have a very good relationship with West Ham, so that looks likely. And then we'll obviously see United push him for right back, because obviously Willie Campbell, I would imagine, would have been a
Mm,
nice fit at right back, but obviously the United have allowed him to go to Villarreal with a buyback. So which we are seeing a lot more of. Actually, it's interesting. We're seeing this buyback now, which Aston Villa, Monchi's led with this, and we're seeing that with Philogene going back to Villa. This is a new transfer tactic that we're seeing in the Premier League now. It's been on the continent, and Monchi and Villa have brought this over. And we've seen players in the past like Douglas Luiz, City have experimented with it, but we're now seeing it being used. And I think that'll become more prevalent in the English league.
yeah.
So like Campbell going to Villarreal, everyone, United fans, don't be too despondent. Those who really like him, if he performs well at Villarreal, there's a good chance he comes back to Old Trafford.
Yeah, yeah. Like you said there, almost like it's like a really expensive loan, isn't it? Where you're seeing a
Yeah,
player
it is.
put it back in. Yeah.
You're paying for a club to to polish up a product, aren't
Mm.
you? Because
Yeah.
suddenly Philogene comes back to Villa in fine fettle, and yeah, it's and it helps when a player goes somewhere permanently. It helps them settle as well, Anil, so they can
Mm.
get your best football out of it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And like so, Camberwell goes to Villarreal. He knows he's only coming back to Old Trafford if he plays really well. So it's a carrot, isn't it?
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. Make complete sense there, Graham. I just want to take your attention now to the defensive area of United. We'll go more central rather than at the fullback areas with Maguire and Lindelof respectively. We'll start with Lindelof first, because I think there has been some more concrete movement, should we say, in terms of a new destination for the defender. What can you tell us about Victor Lindelof's potential departure? Where do you think his future lies?
There's a lot of interest in him out there. He's on decent money, but we see him like to Everton, to other Premier League clubs. I think he's more likely to go to the continent, maybe, but I think it'll be up to him. I think he's got that much interest in there. There's teams in Spain, Italy, Germany, the Saudi Pro League. I think he's probably assessing his options and just seeing where he's best off. Obviously, I think I saw him linked with a return to Portugal, but I think given his
Mm,
wages, that's unlikely. So yeah, I think with Lindelof, it really is a case of when he goes, not if. And it's going to be down to the player because I don't think United are demanding too much money, but he's a very solid performer. I think clubs are happy to will be happy to take him.
yeah, yeah. And in terms of Maguire, I think this is a little bit more of a complex situation, isn't it? I think, look, at the end of the day, he's been very focused. I think it's a very different sort of situation to Lindelof. I think, to be honest, Maguire, since he got the captain armband took off him, it's really took a big weight off his shoulders. And of course, he's been at United throughout the summer, going through rehab, making sure he's ready for the new season, and he is focused on United. But what can you tell us? What do you think about Maguire? What can his future hold, really? Because it is quite an interesting one, isn't
Yeah, I think United would love David Moyes to still be in charge of West Ham, try and take him down there.
it?
He knows if and when Delict comes in, at best he's fourth choice. Johnny Evans has stayed put as well,
Mm,
so he's right-footed. So I think he's third choice of the right-footed centre halves on that side. Maybe second choice after Martinez on the left, but I just United would not stand in his way. They'd love to find a club for him. But it's up to him. Maguire, he's never shown a real willingness to get out of the club.
mm.
You just don't see too many landing spots in England for him. But he's highly thought of. But those wages, remember these incremental wages every year they build up, and he's on a lot of money at United now. That's the issue with Maguire. It's not the fee; it's his wages.
Yeah, yeah, and it's going to be a big stumbling block, which almost feels like the story of Manchester United trying to get rid of all of these players. But a couple of more questions for you, Graham. One in terms of obviously another potential departure, and then I'll get your opinion on something I wanted to ask you. With Casemiro, I think this is a really interesting one because at the end of the day, I understand he's getting a lot of interest, particularly from Saudi Arabia. He's a very decorated player, and quite a lot of Manchester United fans would be certainly open to see him leaving, especially after last season, where he didn't seem quite at the level he has shown throughout his stellar career. But I think this is quite an interesting one because at the end of the day, if you've got someone like Casemiro in the ranks, not putting him at centre half every game and telling him to play as a sixth and an eighth, and sometimes as a 10, and then maybe even as a false nine a couple of games. But look, jokes aside, he has been sort of taken out of his comfortable position quite a lot of last season. And I think there is still a player who can contribute in a lot of ways, not just on the pitch, but his experience, especially with Manu coming through. He can offer a lot. But in terms of Casemiro, Graham, what do you see happens here? Do you think it is a simple situation of him going to Saudi Arabia once the money and the bid is correct for United in terms of what they're going to get, or could you even see a situation where he stays at Old Trafford?
There's always that chance he stays. And the Saudi Pro League are not the pushovers that some people think. The problem is with them, and what I would point out with the Saudi Pro League is people think they're throwing millions upon millions of pounds everywhere, and they are, but they do it in wages. They don't actually throw millions upon millions of pounds at players. I think after in terms of their biggest capture, I think it's Ruben Neves, about
Mm,
55, 60, which surprises a lot of people.
mm,
Moussa Diaby, I think, might be one of their biggest deals when they're getting him from Aston Villa. These big deals for likes of Benrahma, Mahrez, Neymar, it's in wages. So there's going to be no problem in taking Casemiro's wages, which I think is a big thing for United. Getting him off a wage bill is massive. United would like to get the money back. United might have to take a little hit on the fee. They might have to
mm.
take less than 50. But I think if you ask the vast majority of United, United, as long as they get his wages off it out in full and getting his wages out in full and then not having to pay them, I think that's massive. But I think, yeah, he may go for less than we think in terms of his fee, but that might be a small sacrifice United have to take. Because if it may United in a position where they say to Saudi Pro League, okay, we're going to keep him. The Saudi Pro League, no, United don't have that stick to beat them with. That's not, pardon the pun. It's that's not something that I want to do. They don't want to keep him. So I think it will get done, but I think it might be less than 50. Some United fans may be unhappy with the fee, but I think, needs must at times.
Yeah, for sure. Grail, just one final question before I let you go. I know you're a very busy individual. In terms of Ineos, in terms of what you've seen so far in regards to Manchester United, in regards to their business and their decision making, it's almost like a split question here. Did you expect it to be like this when it comes to moving quickly and their specific targets? And have you been impressed with what they've done so far at United?
Quick answer to both is yes. I know. From what I know about Dave Brailsford, Jean Claude Blanc, Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I was never in doubt they would get this right. And I think they've learned the lesson. So Dave Brailsford is someone who you have to look, but if United fans need to look at him, look at the minutiae, the detail he puts into everything. So that Olympic project, for instance, the cycling. I watched a program the other day about that where they go from every fine detail, from the clothing, the fabric the cyclists wear. It's not just a matter of putting things together; it's the minutiae, it's the detail. So Dave Brailsford is at the head of this with Jean-Claude Blanc at Ineos, so they're now board members at United. They are really helping Dan Ashworth. They're not. Whereas we'd say where we thought that Richard Arnold, etc., were maybe because they're not really footballing men. They were more interfering with the time or trying to run
Yeah,
stuff. This
yeah.
is all a synergy. Ineos, so Dave Wilson and Blanc are helping Dan Ashworth. He's come in there, and Dan Ashworth has hit the ground running because of his relationship with Brailsford, which we know was good anyway, and that's why he's took the job. But he's come in, he's been helped by Ineos. They're trying to put things in place to help him to build bridges, literally from make it easier for them. So Jason Wilcox isn't having to deal with the little details all the time. Ineos are helping him with that. Vival, who's come in as the recruitment director, it's everything that Ineos are doing is being highly thought of. From, as I said about the Euro situation, where Ineos helped them with that. They didn't step in on anyone's toes. They let them know. They said, "Look, we think there's an avenue here. Let's put a bid in. Let's do this." They're working together. The synergy is there.
Mm.
So they've copied the structure they're looking at. I believe it was the Man City structure, and that Man City off-field structure was the best in the world. Arguably, still is. And so, with Barada doing his things, with Blanc and Brailsford, this off-field thing is, even if they've got Delict, Euro, UGARTE in, they've got Xerxes, I still think the off-field recruitment has been the real telling factor here. This has been the real mega signings that United have made. Ashworth, Vivell, Wilcox, Barada, but with Brailsford and Blanc, it's this off-field team they put in place, which will be the thing that sets United up for the next decade. It really will. Yeah, it's great. But then when you get it right off the field, then your recruitment makes it easier on the field, and it's all about recruitment. I will always bang this drum, and I do. I've done plenty of pods and written articles in the past. Recruitment is what wins football. It's all about recruitment football, and that means off-field and on-field. And as United know, they've seen lots of issues with the on-field recruitment, but that's been the catalyst for bad recruitment was bad off-field recruitment.
Yeah, yeah.
If you got the wrong people off-field, how are they going to make the right decisions? Aren't you going to get lucky?
Yeah.
Unless you're doing Chelsea and buying every other player in the world, you're going to hit someone's going to stick, isn't it? But it's getting it right off field. I would re-emphasize. I think Ineos are the perfect people for United in a minute. I think Ratcliffe, the way he sets up, but the way Jim Ratcliffe does it is he's not sat making phone calls to Lille. He's not sat ringing UGARTE, persuade them. He's not sat doing Xerxes. He puts the right people in place. He's put Steve Brailsford in place. He's put Blanc in place, who then in turn employ the right people like Dan Ashworth in position. That's the great thing here. They're not micromanaging.
No, yeah, perfect. And I think if that doesn't get Manchester United fans excited for the coming seasons, I don't think anything will. Graeme, as always, thank you so much for your insight into Manchester United. It's always a pleasure, and I'm sure you'll join me very soon again on this channel.
Look forward to it.
And thank you, of course, to everyone who's watched today's episode of the mufcMPB YouTube channel. Be sure to like, subscribe, follow Graeme on all social platforms as well. He's absolutely across everything, not just Manchester United. So it's a very, very good contact to have on your Twitter timeline. And thanks again, as I say, it's been a very busy week. It's been a very positive week for Manchester United. So hopefully it's a sign of things to come. Take care, have a lovely day, and I'm sure I'll see you again soon. Subscribe to the mufcMPB YouTube channel.